dad starred in a short film together as a veteran producer, which is pretty funny. And so you guys go see that. We'll have that off and on in the house. So check it out. It's really cool. I also want to say big thanks to a person who's not here, Sandy Parker. Sandy can't be here. She's been debilitated with MS for quite some time, but she's been so generous to my father. She gave my dad her Cadillac. My dad Cadillac. Treated her well, and thanks Sandy for that. And also Sandy donated a whole bunch of pastries and stuff that we'll all get to enjoy. So thank you for Sandy. Thank you, Sandy, very much. I want to thank Spencer Wolf for setting up the audio visual here, or the audio here. It's really great that he did that. It makes it a lot better. And then I'd also like to thank Isis, Russell, my brother, Sketch, Martin, Brad, Dan, for helping set up today and helping out a lot with that. It was really great. And lastly, and actually mostly, I want to give a big thanks to Dan. Dan Burkholder, where are you? Dan's back there.
Number one protector, brother.
Was happy to do it.
We're so really expressing gratitude out there. In the last 10 years, he did so many great things for my father. He was always here. He was improving something, fixing something in the yard, working on projects with my dad. One of the things, a whole bunch of people running in here today said, oh my God, the backyard looks great. My dad's cash, Dan's guidance on the whole work. And so he was always looking out for my dad. And he also was really instrumental in saving my dad's life 4 months ago when he had his heart attack. My dad didn't want to go to the hospital, and Dan put a blood pressure thing on him, and it showed that his blood pressure was really low, and his heartbeat was racing too fast. And so Dan, yourself, and being of service was something I know about.
Thank you, Dan.
Briefly wanted to just tell you about my dad. He had a quadruple bypass in May, right around his birthday actually, and he tried to tell us that, he just wasn't feeling well. It took us 3 days finally to get him to the hospital. He was still trying to use power walks at night, ambivalent to any type of outward pressure to get him to the hospital. He had a quadruple bypass, and was still insisting when we got to the hospital, oh, I'm fine, when are you going to take me home? And just very much like my dad. And so in his last words to me as he was wheeled in on the gurney to the emergency room, I'm fine, I'm fine. Just go smoke a doobie for me. I'm sober these days, so I took it as I raised a glass of water. So, but he then came back and recovered and was doing pretty well, and then his stomach started to bloat, and we took him in, Dan took him in the hospital, and they did a CAT scan, and he had stomach cancer and pancreatic cancer. So he lived about a month after that diagnosis. He did not die of pain. He died of pain all around him, and he did it gracefully. We'll talk more about that as this goes on. Right now, I'd like to call up Brad. Brad, come on up and say something. Appreciate it.
Deep breath.
This wouldn't be complete without dogs barking.
Hi folks, my name is Brad White. I and my beautiful half here, Wendy, have lived here Wendy has lived with me for 25 years. I have lived here going on 50 some odd. 45 years ago, while a dear friend of mine and I were right here tending our garden, A head popped up right there. And that gentleman said to me, "What are you growing?" So we encouraged him to come over, which he did, literally, because there was no gate at that time. That fence back there was a white picket. You could see through. This was a different time, different era. Anyway, that's what started what Jerry has always claimed, if you've ever been introduced to me, that I created him. That's what you would hear. Not necessarily so. He helped round me out and create me and anyone who touched his life, as you well know. I'm going to go to a pretty simple thing, which is a creed for the Boy Scouts. Jerry was no Boy Scout, but he did and held true to himself trustworthiness. This man was very trustworthy. It didn't make any difference. It was trust. He blasted his kids with that in the phrase of buddy's honor. That's how he used his trustworthiness with his boys, to keep them somewhat in line. And not that he could keep them in line, but they would say, yeah, buddy's honor. His loyalty, as you all know, students, friends alike, he was loyal to all of us. It didn't make any difference night or day for me. Whatever I needed, he was loyal to that. He was loyal to his friends, his students. He was loyal to his hot tub. He was loyal to his swimming pool. Helpful comes next up on that line. He was as helpful as he could be. Always claimed that he had 4 thumbs and that his knuckles dragged on the ground. He wasn't necessarily the most mechanical man that we know. He depended on those around us to take care of that for him, which they have. All of you have had something to do with that. Every one of you here has had something to do with helping Jerry in some way get to the point to where he is and was. Friendly. The man was as friendly as, I don't know anybody else who was friendlier. To be honest with you, I barely knew my father. My mother died in the 80s, but loved Jerry. I don't care how naked he was all the time. She loved him. When all the nakedness was going on, these knotholes in this fence, my mother would love to come out on the back porch and see all these guys like that. She would chuckle, and we would turn around and go, "Oh, what? We're just, you know, there's a little bit of There was a little bit of porn action going on there. Famous for it. And this house, to be honest with you, this one too.
Something live for it. Exactly. So a good exchange.
He was courteous man. Always. When I could bring anyone there, he was so courteous. Mi casa su casa. That was his line. My home is your home. And we have always felt that way. That my home was his home. We shared this because there is no rule here. And then because we could get wonderful folks like this together in an open space. You've all been here next door at parties, and a lot of you here at parties. I'll go to kind. He was the kind. He grew the kind. He was the kind. The first man that got behind a cookie revolution around here.
Don't forget the brownies.
Cookies. One is fun, two will do.
That's right.
Everyone knows that one. Obedience. We go to obedience there. You know, Jerry went his own way, lived his own life, but he had obedience to his children, to his wife. They would road trip. He would haul himself away from his waterbed, from his hot tub, from his swimming pool, and go on these wonderful road trips. Hook up his trailer to their automobile and go throughout the country showing his children about the marvelous country we live in. Cheerful would be the next one. The man was very cheerful, always, somehow, no matter what happened over there. And there was always controversy. This was a house where people talked about things, and it is still to this day. People discuss what is going on around them. He would manage to bring up the cheery side of things. Always. And without saying too much, he would quiet you down and sort of put you in your place to where you backed off the throttle. If the throttle was getting intense, he managed to calm things down. Put the clutch in, let it coast a little. Not that he was that good of a driver.
Oh, is that for
Thrifty
sure?
I come to. The man was not thrifty. He always had his wallet available in his sock, which was, you know, you looked at him and you went, dude, what is that growing on your ankle? And it was his wallet, which he was more than happy to break out and to allow whatever it might be. He was more than willing to kick to the project. And brave, I'll give you one on that one. Years ago, we were all here in the backyards, sitting under there, cooking, barbecuing. And there was a horrible crash out here across the street. It was a crash. And we all jumped up and ran to see what was going on, because that was a picket fence. We could look over it. And someone had crashed into the back of one of our dear friends' vehicles, crashed in and came running directly across the street, crashed over our fence, running. And he was running from like about 15 LAPD units. This guy was a serious felon who had just been released and had been terrorizing this area, shooting out plate glass windows up and down Ventura Boulevard, all the main thoroughfares around here. And they had just noticed him at Laurel Canyon and Ventura, and they chased him, and he made it all the way here, crashed into our friend's brand new SUV, and came over the fence, literally crashed it over as he was escaping. Jerry stood up, ran to about that area there. As this guy crashed through, he came across the garage wall. He said, "I've got a gun." And Jerry stood and looked at him and said, turned around and looked to us and said, "He doesn't have a gun." We were sitting over there tending not only chicken, but about 40 starts. Little ones, we had trays of them sitting over there. Next thing that happens, he runs across here, comes right through here, jumps over here, finds himself surrounded in the pool filter area back here in the corner. He's trapped. Not really. He weasels his way out. And by that time, Jerry says, "Let's go." He and a friend of ours pursued at a high rate of speed through Jerry's backyard. I was protecting the women. And yes, and we were hiding the stories, trying to tuck them someplace because you could hear the units pulling up. Here comes the LAPD. They come in droves, right through the area where he jumped and broke down the fence. Well, we're directing traffic through, by that time, the gate was open, and we're directing them through there. Go through there. Go through there. And all these LAPD rushing by. When they get in there, back in the far corner of that backyard, where that palm tree is, the guy had got that far. He was headed, who knows where he was headed. And those meat hooks of J.R. Neason put the grip on him. Boom. Stopped him in place, drug him out slowly, put a double hammerlock on him because Jerry Neason was a wrestler in college, and a very good one. Put a double hammerlock on him. They pulled him out. And by the time the units arrived, he had made the collar, he had made the collar, and the LAPD was no doubt embarrassed. But about the gun thing, once they took this man out, got him outside, I'll never forget the lieutenant who snatched this kid up, got him up in his face and said, "Do you know, we've been looking for you for months." The damage he had done to this neighborhood in plate glass, because he was working for a corrupt glass man. He was shooting out windows of plate glass and making money from a corrupt glass man. Anyway, they pulled him up. They took him across the street to have a little private conversation with him. They didn't do anything to him. They just wanted to separate he and the woman he was with, who managed to get out of the car and walk away. They got her, brought her back. But once everything got accumulated at his car, they started pulling out guns, real guns. 45 pistol, 9mm, which he had chucked under the car when he got out. And I will never in my life forget the bravery of J.R. Neason when he said, "This man doesn't have a gun," and took off on a wonderful foot chase that we enjoyed. Very good. Once, the chicken burnt. Nobody cared a whole lot about the chicken by that time. It was like, everybody was like, but that's just a piece of his bravery. The other part of his bravery was near the end of his life. He was very brave at that point. You never heard him complain much. He only when he would call in the middle of the night and try and get us to break him out of the hospital. He'd call me and say, "Please, get me out of here. They're holding me." He stuck it out and was able to get back home. Bravery. Clean, yes. The man was clean. In that he took a hot tub every day and swam in that pool every day. He was clean. And that filtering system got changed 3 times over the years that I've been here, to where today you could jump in there and drink as much as you want and you're going to be okay. So should anybody, and if we ever have a big one, that's the pool to drink from. Reverend? No. The man was an atheist and believed in the miracle of science, of men and women who are educated, know what they're talking about, don't take the bullshit, know who's passing the bullshit. He would always ask, "Where did you hear that?" Question that always. And the thing I'm going to miss about this man is the way I could set my clock by him. If I didn't see him in that hot tub every morning after his retirement with a crossword puzzle in his hand, or if I didn't see him finishing off in a paper plate the last crumbs of brownies with a cup of coffee, I knew something was wrong. I am humbled by this man. I have always been humbled by him. With his, he was a very intelligent man, as all of you know. And I miss him dearly. We all miss him dearly, and will. This house is still, the house is still open to all of you. Because of what it is. It has that vibe about it. It has that come on in. Jerry and I would want to mention the seasons. When you think about rain, Jerry and I would stand out here listening to it just drive. And we loved it. Just hearing that rain pounding, hearing hail hitting, we'd be on the phone to one another immediately when there was a rainbow. Jerry loved rainbows. He loved special effects. He loved light effects. He loved illusion. It was his dear loves, as you know. If you've ever been in the home, there are light effects all through it. He loved Dark Side of the Moon. Every night I would put that on as the sun was setting and crank it. And he and I would sit here and listen to Dark Side. The whole thing, start to finish. As with Laserium, I could depend on him. We all could, for being there at the observatory. If we ever said Laserium and Dark Side is being played, Jerry was the first one to say, I'm in and on. We hiked, the family hiked those hills of Griffith Park. But when it came to Laserium and twirling the light sticks, and Jerry was just, he was in heaven. And I love Jerry Neason. I miss him dearly. I want to thank you all for being here for me. You've done my heart so much good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. Yeah, just a little add on that whole nudity thing. I think that my dad was the only guy who, after getting out of the pool naked, had the late great John Holmes look at him with envy and say, hey. It wasn't because of my dad's endowment. It was because of his tan. Next up, Isis, who very much in a lot of ways was like a daughter my dad never had. Isis, come on up. She's a real special person in my family. So we should talk about. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Isis. First time doing this, and I would only do it for Jerry. Only thing that I can say is that's my dad. Has always been my dad from the moment I met him. I miss him. I never felt so much love in my heart for anybody other than him. It's unconditional, and I know he loves me the same way. I will forever be grateful for that, and I adore him. I miss him. There is a moment of my life that I don't think of him or wish that I could just hold his hand and let him tell me that everything's gonna be okay, honey, no matter what. And I believed those words. Every time he told me those words, I believed them. And everything was fine. From the moment he would tell me, everything's gonna be okay, honey, everything was okay. So, I guess I'm just thankful to have that, to remember him by that, and for so much love that I received every day. And the way he admired me, I don't know why he admired me, but he admired me, and he loved me. So, thank you, Eric, Robert, Dad, for sharing him so much with me, for loving me and making me a part of the family. I love you guys so much.
Okay, next up is Brad's longtime girlfriend, Wendy. Come on up and say something.
So Brad already told some of my best jokes, my best Jerry stories. I've been living with Brad about 25 years. And before that, I would come over and hang out. I realized that there was this bond between the two homes. And it took me a while to figure it out. That I could, when I moved in here, I wasn't just moving into Brad's house, I was also moving into Jerry's house. All Jerry's friends and students and colleagues, and that was something to get used to. And actually what happened was one time the gas company meter reader came by, and he noticed that the gate was open, and he commented